Good afternoon, everybody, and welcome to the Israel Brief, brought to you by Lay of the Land. I'm Rolene Marks, your host, with today's top stories. Today is International Holocaust Memorial Day, a day that has been designated by the United Nations to coincide with the liberation of the Auschwitz death camp. Auschwitz-Birkenau was the largest of all the Nazi death camps and was responsible for the slaughter of over 1 million Jews. Now, today is different to Yom HaShoah, which is a day that takes place in the Hebrew calendar and is a national day of memorial for the victims of the Holocaust in Israel, and specifically the Jewish experience. But today is about not just remembering, but also about education and what happens when hatred is allowed to go unchecked. It's very, very important that we remember that places like Auschwitz and the Holocaust were not built on gas chambers, but rather words. And the Holocaust, which is the greatest genocide of all time, resulted in the merciless slaughter of over 6 million Jews, as well as members of the Sinti and Roma communities, the LGBTQ communities, Jehovah's Witnesses, people who were deemed undesirable because they were mentally or physically handicapped. As the Nobel Peace Prize winner and famed Holocaust survivor, as well as human rights icon Elie Wiesel once said, "Not all victims were Jewish, but all Jews were victims." And Jews in particular were marked for death from birth to the very, very elderly. And today is a day where we take on the cry, "Never again," and really, really hope to educate future generations about the Holocaust and about racial intolerance and what happens if this hatred is left to flourish. Now, it was with this intention in mind that Israel's President Reuven Rivlin invited delegations from around the world last week to Jerusalem, the capital of the Jewish people, the capital of Israel. And these delegations included royalty, including the King of Spain, His Royal Highness Prince Charles of the United Kingdom, as well as presidents from places like Germany, Montenegro, Vladimir Putin from Russia, Emmanuel Macron from France, and various others. And it was not without its controversy. President Duda of Poland refused to attend because of a diplomatic or historical spat with Russia, and the Lithuanian president also refused to attend, and is a very, very controversial figure at the moment because the Lithuanian parliament is hoping to pass legislation that abdicates the country of all responsibility for its role in the Holocaust. Now, this is particularly painful to many South Africans whose family have their roots in Lithuania and whose families were wiped out, not just by Nazis, but by Lithuanian collaborators. And on Friday, there was a protest outside the Lithuanian embassy in Tel Aviv, which was attended by over 200 protesters and included speakers like famed Nazi hunter Ephraim Zurov, who said that we will never forget and we will never forgive the Lithuanians. But while this was happening in Jerusalem, a very, very moving moment took place at the Auschwitz-Birkenau death camp, and this was a 62-person delegation from the Muslim community, led by a very, very high-level imam, and they walked through the gates of Auschwitz and acknowledged the pain and the genocide of the Jewish people, and at a certain point got on their knees, put their heads on the ground, and prayed for the souls of all those who were mercilessly slaughtered. And as I report on this, it's quite difficult to keep my tears at bay because of it is such a painful experience for all of us, even generations later, and also very, very moving to see members of the Muslim community coming to show their respects and their acknowledgement. Now, as we speak, some 200 survivors of Auschwitz-Birkenau, their children, their grandchildren, and even their great-grandchildren are gathering at the death camp for their commemoration of the 75th anniversary of the liberation of Auschwitz by the Soviet army. And dignitaries there include Israel's President Rivlin, as well as Poland's President Duda, who was missing at the Jerusalem Forum, as well as various other dignitaries, including Prince Charles's wife, the Duchess of Cornwall, and various other leaders from around the world. And around the world there are many communal events taking place to commemorate the Holocaust that are different to Israel's Yom HaShoah. And our concluding thoughts is, may the memories of all who perished in the Holocaust eternally be blessed. In other news, now we go to Washington, where Israel's Prime Minister Netanyahu, as well as Benny Gantz, the leader of the Kahol V'Levan, or Blue and White Party, will be meeting with President Trump separately to have a look at the much anticipated Trump peace plan. Now, we don't know exactly what the peace plan entails. We have heard snippets that were apparently leaked to the Israeli press last week, but what has made the news is that it is reported, and this is not confirmed, that the Trump administration could give Israel sovereignty over Jerusalem as well as certain settlements, and may include a few land swaps. But we will only know for sure when the plan is officially released. And also rumor having made the news this morning that the Trump administration may only give Israel 6 months to implement the plan if they wanted to continue like this. Now, naturally, as you can well imagine, it hasn't been well received by the Palestinians. The Palestinian Authority have called for a boycott of the Trump peace plan, as well as endorsing, or as well as refusing to take the calls from the Trump administration. Hamas calling for 2 days of rage and a return of the March of Return riots that were being held at the border with Gaza on Friday afternoon. They've called for 2 days of rage tomorrow and Wednesday to take place. And we've also heard from members of ISIS calling for Israel to be turned into an experiment ground for chemical and rocket warfare. Israel is bracing for 2 days of unrest, and we hope that all our citizens, as well as the IDF, are kept safe. And in other news, and this time again from Saudi Arabia, fascinating news released yesterday by Israel's Ministry of Foreign Affairs, and that it has been agreed by the Saudis and the Israelis that Israelis will now be able to visit Saudi Arabia for religious or business purposes. So Israeli Muslims will no longer need special permission. They are free to visit, to make Hajj, to visit Mecca and Medina, the two holiest cities in Islam. And Israelis who want to do business with the Saudis, and we know that the Saudis want our technology, are free to do so. So it is a huge, huge transition, a huge, huge leap forward for ties between Israel and the Arab world. But these are today's top stories. Don't forget that you can view our content online, our original content online, at www.layoftheland.online. Today, for International Holocaust Memorial Day, we will be carrying Holocaust type content this whole week. Please take time to read the phenomenal article by Dr. Tessa Schlusch. Dr. Schlusch is one of the most respected and foremost experts on Holocaust medicine. What is Holocaust medicine, you ask? Please go read the article. It's a fascinating field of study, a massive field of study, which explores how Nazi racist ideology permeated the field of medicine and how it has resulted in lessons today. If you miss it on our website, you can catch it on our Facebook page. While you are there, like us or follow us. We're at Lottel Site. We look a little something like this. And share our content and invite your friends to view it as well. And also don't forget that we all have a role to play in education and fighting anti-Semitism. And by subscribing to our YouTube channel at the Israel Brief, you help play your part in disseminating good content. So a little bit of a longer brief than usual, but hey, it's a big news week. So with today's edition of the Israel Brief, I'm Rolene Marks. We'll chat again tomorrow.